Cat Days by Griffin Rose on AO3. Episode 45. Chapter 12. Eri's Hair. After Overhaul's arrest, Eri became the UA sweetheart within a matter of days. She stayed in the teacher's lounge during the day, being watched by whatever teacher had a break that period, or, if no one did, then tagged along with Shouta to his class. She had workbooks to catch her up to the speed education-wise, and coloring books to help her find motor skills. She liked the coloring books the best, but she didn't keep the pictures. When she finished one, she handed it to someone the picture reminded her of. Her coloring pages were quickly filling the campus. Nothing compared to the sheer joy and honor of being gifted one of these pages. Between 1A and 3A, the classes Eri spent the most time around, and therefore handed out the most pictures to, the number of pages became a bragging right. Izuku had 6 pinned around his dorm already, only beating by Shouta, who had 8. Eri was working on one right now while Izuku did homework, both of them sitting in the 1A common room after the coffee table. She kept her crayons in a neat row before her, while Izuku had spread his art history notes all over the table and the floor to work on his essay. She reached for a blue crayon and tossed her hair over her shoulder. Izuku glanced up at the motion, saw her quietly shading in the sky, and went back to his essay. A few minutes later, she hummed and swiped some of her hair out of her face. Izuku frowned. She'd been doing that a lot lately, but she was starting to sound more and more irritated about it. "Hey, Eri, do you want me to tie your hair back for you?" She blinked at him. "Tie it back?" "Yeah, like Yayamomo. Well, not exactly like her. I can't style it that well, but I can get it out of your face for you. If you want, that is." She thought it over for a moment before nodding. "Yes, please." "Great, 1 second." He moved behind her, gently pulling all her hair back. Ideally, he'd brush it first, but brushing her hair was a struggle on the best of days because of how knotted it could get. Detangling it pulled on her, and even though she didn't complain or even whimper, none of them could stand doing it to her. The latest conditioner Hisashi had gotten for her seemed to help. Her hair felt like silk in his hands, and he didn't fear nearly as much knots as normal. "You'll have to let Hisashi know this one was working." He gathered her hair in a low ponytail to avoid unnecessary pulling, and then, for lack of a real hair tie, he sacrificed his hoodie string to tie it off at her neck. "There, how's that?" She rolled her head around, eyes lighting up when her hair stayed out of her face, and her mouth shifted into a small smile for him. "Thank you." He would die for this smile, as small as it was. His chest ached with happiness that she finally felt safe enough to smile at all, and each one made him want to cry with joy. "You're welcome. I'll do your hair for you anytime, okay?" He made a mental note to start carrying around proper hair ties. "Okay." Later, she gave him the page she'd been coloring. He proudly added it to his collection. Did they need to celebrate Hitoshi's official transfer to 1A with a picnic? No. Did they do it anyways? Yes. Hisashi and Izuku prepped the food. Eri and Shouta found a large blanket and picked out the best spot on the UA campus. And anytime Hitoshi tried to help, Izuku tricked him into going back to the 1A dorms and sent his classmates after him. There would be another party when Hitoshi moved into the 1A dorms the following day. Tonight was for the family. Food made, cliché basket packed, they found Eri to the spot she'd chosen. There was a good pond, not too far off, and plenty of trees for shade. And they were far enough away from the buildings that none of them felt like they were being watched. They spread out the blankets and set out the food. "You really didn't have to do all this," Hitoshi said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Hush," Izuku said. "We wanted to." "We could have eaten inside, so you didn't have to lug this all out here." That's not any different from a regular night, Hisashi complained. At least this will stand out in your memory. Itoshi laughed. Yeah, I guess you got a point. Can we eat now? Eri asked, eyeing the sliced apples. Go right ahead. Shouta pushed the plate closer to her. Without further prompting, the rest of them dived in. Conversation was full of Izuku and Itoshi going over their joint training again, and Eri asking questions. After they were done eating, they went to skip rocks over the pond. Eri leaned over to look for some rocks, and her hair dipped into the water. Oh, Izuku? She held up the dripping ends. Want me to tie it up for you? He guessed. She nodded. Smiling, he walked over. He kept a few hair ties on his wrist now, becoming a new favorite with the girls in his class. What do you think? A high ponytail this time? Okay. Lightly running his fingers through first, he gently eased her hair up into a high ponytail and wrapped the tie around. There, all done. Thank you. This time, when she searched for skipping stones, her hair stayed safely above the water. Aw, no fair. I want to play with her hair. It's all she complained. Maybe next time. Izuku offered. Beside him, Itoshi chuckled. You know our little sister is cute enough. We could probably charge people to do her hair, instead of the other way around. Izuku elbowed him. Don't extort our baby sister. Even if Itoshi was completely right. I didn't say I was gonna do it. Since both Hitoshi and Izuku lived in 1A, Eri tended to spend a lot of time there too. It was just as natural to see her coloring at the dining table as it was to see Kaminari with a phone charger in his mouth, or Sato baking. Everyone doted on her, and it allowed her normal caregivers to step back for a bit and relax. Truly a win-win for everyone involved. Tonight was movie night, and there was an array of old Disney movies spread out on the floor. The typical debate raging on in front of them. Half the class demanded one thing over the other. Izuku was content to leave them be most of the time. His only option for this evening was that the movie had to be appropriate for Eri, and Disney movies weren't usually an issue. Does it always take this long to decide? Hitoshi asked beside him. He tossed popcorn up to try to catch it with his mouth. It bounced off his nose. Usually, Izuku said. He sat on the floor in front of the couch, Eri in his lap, and watching his class with interest. You should put movies in a bag and have someone pick at random, he said. Excellent idea, Tanya said. Everybody. Izuku laughed. With Tanya's direction, a diplomatic decision was made, and The Little Mermaid was put on. More entertaining than the movie was watching Eri. She barely looked away from the screen, and she swayed to some of the songs. Her hands tightening in Izuku during the tense scenes, and she relaxed into him whenever things calmed down again. When the credits rolled, Eri leaned back and peered at him. Can you turn into a mermaid? He wished he could, just to make her happy. Nope, I can't do partial translations like that. Oh, she said. Is there a movie with a unicorn then? There's a Pegasus and Hercules, Hitoshi suggested. Not a unicorn, but the horse has wings. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded. Princess Ares requests Hercules next, Hitoshi called out. Done, Uraraka said, switching out the movies. Izuku glared at Hitoshi. You know this means I'm going to have to figure out how to morph into a Pegasus, right? Hitoshi flipped a stray of Colonel at him. Sounds like a you problem. Flying animals are hard. The biology is different. He still couldn't get his new dragon form off the ground. Birds he could at least study, but they've taken him a year to master. Now he had to figure out how to make a horse fly? It's okay if you can't. Eri consoled him, patting his knee. I like the unicorn. Izuku hugged her. At the very least, I could be a horse with wings, even if I can't fly. Once the movie started playing, Eri was just as enraptured, leaning forward so she didn't miss anything. She bounced on his lap, and pointed at Hercules with Zeus, formed the wings horse on the clouds, looking back at Izuku with stars in her eyes. That's the one, right? He's so cute! Well, damn. Now he had absolutely no choice but to figure it out. Hitoshi patted his shoulders and wished him luck. He started theorizing different ways he could make it happen. Hands growing restless at mid-race. There wasn't anything to write with, and he didn't want to bother Eri by asking her to move so he could grab a notebook. Besides, he couldn't write with her in her lap. His fingers ended up in her hair, softly combing through the strands. Without meaning to, he separated the hair into different sections. Before he knew it, he braided pigtails. They were uneven, since he hadn't been paying attention, so he shook them loose to do them properly. He'd done this to Hisashi and Shouta a lot growing up. They'd all sit down to watch a movie. His hands would get restless. Hisashi offered his hair for braiding first, and then they dragged Shouta into it, so Hisashi could teach Izuku how to do it. Shouta wasn't a huge fan of having his hair played with, but he suffered through it. Most of the time, it was just something for Izuku and Hisashi. He was kind of excited to have a little sister to do this for now. He'd have to ask the girls to teach him some different styles. Eri would love that. Hitoshi took a photo of the braids once Izuku was done, and after the movie slowed, Eri, what looked like, she adored them and ended up going to bed with them. And Izuku texted Tsuyu to ask for hair lessons. Asking for lessons turned out to be a mistake. All the girls jumped in, and Izuku found himself in the middle of an impromptu girl night and wearing a face mask. I just wanted something different hairstyles for Eri, he moaned. Next time, he'll use the internet, like a normal person. Oh, hush. You look fabulous when we're done, Hagakure said, wielding green nail polish and grabbing his hand. Izuku yanked it. Teach me first. Oh, I've got a perfect one for you, son Eri, Mina said. Tsuyu, come here. I'll show him on you. They all shifted so Tsuyu could sit on the floor in front of her bed, Izuku and Mina behind her. Mina provided to be a good teacher, clearly explaining and demonstrating the steps. When she was done, and after Izuku washed off the face mask, they brushed out Tsuyu's hair so Izuku could attempt it himself. It took him 3 tries before he felt confident he could recreate it on Eri. He agreed with Mina. It would be perfect for her. While he was there, they also showed him how to French braid and do fishtails. And of course, they wouldn't let him leave until Hagakure painted his nails. He never morphed with painted nails before. Would his claws be painted too? The polish was still a little tacky when Momo brought out makeup and Izuku made a quick escape off the balcony. He hated that stuff and how it felt on his face, and he was in the mood to be dramatic. His talons were indeed painted. Whatever, it wasn't the worst thing to happen to him. He learned from what he wanted, at least. Now he had to wait for the opportunity to practice. 2 days later gave him the perfect chance. He was watching Eri on a Sunday while Shouta caught up on sleep, and since the weather was nice, they were going out playing in the park. Eri liked always having her hair down, and as she climbed down the swing set, it kept falling to her face. Hey, Eri! Izuku seized his chance. Come here, I'll pick up your hair. She glanced between him and the monkey bars before nodding and jogging over, hopping up next to him on the bench, with her back to him. He sat sideways to get at her hair, combing out the tangles with his, still green, fingers. I'm gonna try something new today, okay? Okay, Eri said. With careful, gentle movements, he separated her hair and began to work, weaving the strands up and around. It wasn't perfect. Some shorter strands slipped through and hung loose when he was finished, but he thought they added a little touch, honestly. Now, everyone will know that you're a princess. He beamed at her. She patted the brain crone he'd given her. Can I see? Of course. He pulled out his phone for a quick photo and flipped it around to show her. I love it, she said. I'm glad, Izuku said. Next time he'll weave in some flowers or ribbons or something. He really should start carrying more stuff around for her. The hair ties were good, but not always enough. She ran off to play, and he stayed nearby in case she needed him. Not to keep from getting hurt. She was always careful, but too long without someone she trusted made her nervous, so he liked to stay in her line of sight when they were out. Other girls complimented Eri's crown braid, and she smiled and pointed at Izuku. My big brother did it. The noise that escaped his mouth was downright embarrassing. One of her rare smiles, and she called him her big brother. Dead. He was deceased. Too many emotions. He always knew feelings would be his undoing. Lucky, I wish my brother would do my hair. Eri glanced back at him. He smiled and nodded in her encouragement. They were still working on her being self-confident, so being called lucky was hard for her to believe. But at least with something like this, it would be hard for her to deny. Maybe doing her hair had more benefits beyond getting it out of her face. Izuku would have to remember that. Kid, what are you doing? Shouta asked. Izuku shamelessly added another pair of cat ear bands into his basket. Also in the basket were an assortment of barrettes, hair ribbons, scrunchies, and sparkly twisty things he could add to Eri's hair. Shopping? Izuku said. Shouta blinked at him, and then at the basket. Is there something you need to tell me, or... Okay, Izuku could see how this would be weird from Shouta's point of view. Izuku always kept his hair relatively short and barely ran a brush through it after a shower. On previous visits to the mall, they've never even glanced at the cutesy little girl-centered shop. Now, not only did Izuku drag Shouta to the mall on a Monday night, but he beelined for this store in particular and proceeded to fill a basket in less than 5 minutes. Even knowing how out of character it was for him, he thought it was rather obvious what he was doing. It's for Eri, Dad. I thought we had headbands and clips. Basic ones, Izuku corrected. He spotted a set of unicorn bracelets and scratched them up. These are fun. Fun, Shouta repeated. Some people like to have fun with their hair. Eri likes whatever I braid hers, so I thought I could get her some accessories. Shouta blinked again. Seeing him in this store felt like a fever dream. His all-black ensemble and messy hair looked out of place amongst the sparkle and ribbons everywhere. Izuku would have to sneak a picture somehow. All right, then. Maybe pace yourself, though. You don't have to buy the whole store tonight. That was true. If he bought everything now, it would be hard to surprise Eri with more stuff later. Good point. He had enough in his basket for now, he supposed. Neither of them glanced at the price tag when they checked out, but Izuku did spare a passing thought that it was a good thing Shouta was a pro-hero salary. Even as an underground hero, he was pretty well compensated, not to mention his teaching salary. There were perks to working at a school as well-known and as well-funded as UA. Plus, sharing rent with Hisashi for so long? Money wasn't really an issue. They weren't rich, but they were comfortable off. There was no price tag to how happy this would make Eri. Anyways, Izuku was practically skipping home. He couldn't wait to see her face at all of this stuff. You know, she's gonna use this on half of your hair, right? Shouta pointed out. Izuku snorted. I don't have a problem with that. I just hope you can handle it when she attacks yours. You've got more to work with. Shouta grimaced. Fantastic. Izuku was excited to see him and neon butterfly clips in his hair. They left Mirio and Itoshi with Eri while they went shopping, and they walked into Shota's staff apartment. Mirio was crawling over the floor, with Eri riding his back. Itoshi shamelessly filmed and shot a lazy grin when Izuku and Shouta walked in. Welcome back, Itoshi greeted. Mirio's a horse too, Eri said. Mirio gave his best impression of a knee. Hey, looks like I've got to run for my money, Izuku joked. He set his bag on the kitchen table. At least his hooves don't ruin the carpet, Shouta murmured. Izuku spared him a quick glare. Okay, fine, so he tore a few holes on the thin carpet. He'd been busy bringing joy to a little girl. What was more important here? Shouta raised a brow. Am I wrong? Izuku concealed his point by sticking out his tongue at him. Just so airy what you got her, Shouta said. You got me something? Eri said. She slipped off of Mirio's back. I did. Come see. Izuku led her back to the kitchen and lowered the bag to her height. She peered inside and blinked. Whoa, that's a lot. Izuku chucked and scratched his cheek. Yeah, I may have gone overboard, but I was really excited. Here, let's spread them out. He dumped the bag out on the table while Eri climbed on a chair to see better. Hitoshi and Mirio came over too. Hitoshi whistled. You didn't hold back. You're gonna have a lot of fun with these, Eri, Mirio said. Eri nodded and stared at everything in wonder. This is all for me? Yup. Izuku nodded. He picked up the unicorn bralets. I thought you might have some fun with things to put in your hair. She traced her fingers over the barrettes. Can you put them in for me? He smiled. Of course. Breaking open the package, he freed the plastic and slipped them onto her hair, pinning the sides of her hair. Aw, just when I thought you couldn't get more adorable, Mirio said. She blushed and looked down at her hands. Thank you, and thank you, Zuzu. Don't mention it, Izuku said. He then picked up the cat headband and shoved it on Hitoshi's head. Hey, it suits you, Mirio grinned. Hitoshi raised a brow in challenge, swiping another set off the table. He jammed them onto Mirio's head. Now we match. That's cool with me. I think I look amazing in these ears. You're both pretty. Now clear the table so I can make dinner, Shouta said. Yes, sir. The clips became a constant for Eri after that. She'd picked one out every day to wear, and Izuku's heart soared when he saw her wearing them. And, just as he and Shouta had predicted, she was quick to put clips in their hair. She finished coloring all day while Izuku was over and still working on his math homework, and she shyly pulled out the shoebox that stored all the clips in. Zuzu? Yes? Can I put these in your hair? Absolutely. Grinning, she set the box down and got to work. He continued his current problem he was on, barely feeling her clip his curls together. Hitoshi, fake napping on the couch across from him, piped up. You can add more than that. So Eri added more. And then she went to put butterfly clips in Hitoshi's hair, which almost looked like butterflies were actually flying because of the way his hair defied gravity. They kept the clips in all day, a badge of honor as their big brothers. When Shouta came in, they, of course, roped him into the fun as well. I want to braid his hair, Eri said, her fingers running through the dark strands. I'll teach you, Izuku offered. Shouta quietly tolerated them playing with his hair. If Izuku didn't know any better, he would have thought his dad was sleeping. Eri picked up the braiding easily. She didn't make the neatest braid, but that would come with practice. Once Shouta's hair was braided, she added cat clips to it. Well, I think we're the best-looking family there ever was, Izuku declared once they were all done. Hitoshi and Eri startled a bit, mouthing the word family to themselves. Shouta dragged Eri into his lap and gave Hitoshi a pointed look. I agree. Someone take a photo of us before I change my mind. Izuku leaped at the chance. Shouta never asked for pictures, and did his utmost to avoid cameras. For a good reason, of course, with his underground work and everything. But this meant that pictures they did take were special, and Izuku treasured every one of them. He definitely treasured this one, the first one of the 4 of them, squashed together on the couch. He, Hitoshi, and Shouta had an absent amount of hair clips in their hair, and Eri sported her favorite unicorn clips and grinned widely at the camera. Yeah, definitely treasuring this one. Okay, alright. This was such a cute one, and cute and long for Christmas. I think this one posts on Christmas. I think we post on Christmas. Do I post this on Christmas? Give me a second, I'm checking. Yes, I do post this on Christmas. I just had to check, but I do. Oh, this is such a cute one. Oh my god, and you guys are getting a new series on Christmas too. Oh my god, it is a miracle. Next one is, oh god. Yeah, next one is five episodes long, around there. Yeah, 5 episodes long, around there. 5, 6. I could maybe stretch it to 7, but it's not gonna make it till the end of the year. Or maybe it will. Who knows? It'll be a stretch. It'll be like a couple days. But, oh my god. Also, end of the year, you know what's coming? My AO3 wrap. I saw someone in my comments ask how they get their AO3 wrap, like the information for that. I'm like, oh no, it's not something like that AO3 does, like how Spotify does the Spotify wrap. AO3 wrap is just something that I do myself. So I'm gonna have a very fun couple days following up to New Year's. And I actually think I'm gonna do it a couple days before, mainly because I'm gonna be with my dad, and I know I don't normally read when it comes to New Year's. I don't normally read fan fictions when I am with my dad, mainly because he always asks, and then I always tell him, and then look, I love him, I do, but I don't think he needs to know what ABO is, or Drunken Confession, or any of the shit I read. Not because I read something bad, just because, I don't know, it's just weird telling my parents. Look, I can tell my mom. My mom knows. My whole family actually knows about this channel and that I read fan fictions, right? Some of them are under the impressions that I read stories, but those, like my grandparents, they don't know that I read fan fiction. But my aunt, my uncles, my mom, my dad, they know I read fan fiction. Right? My grandparents know. I'm saving them the trouble, the hassle. They could just think that I'm reading stories. And my little siblings as well, they think I'm reading stories. Mainly because it's kind of hard to explain to them what fanfiction is. I mean, try explaining what fanfiction is to a 6-year-old. Right? They just think that I'm reading make-believe stories. Right? And they don't really fully capped. I think maybe if I explained it to my other siblings, probably yeah. Echo Bro knows, clearly. And then my little cousins, they're even smaller than 6, right? So they're not gonna know. I know for a fact that the 4-year-old is not gonna understand, and neither is the, 9-month-old is not gonna, 9-month-old's not gonna understand jack shit. Okay, but I had fun. This is super cute. The next one is called Let's See How Far We Come. It's taken a lot for Izuku to be where he is now, but he hasn't forgotten where he started. He's not being humble. He's suffering from nightmares. He can't really forget, even if he wanted to. Between his dad and all his friends, he doesn't have to suffer alone. And in turn, he'll help them as much as he can, too. This is indeed to be the final chapter, so I hope you are all prepared. Like, for real, this is the last chapter. This isn't like all the other times I said it was the last chapter. This time, it's for sure. Also, real quick, I played hard and fast with some legal stuff in this. As far as I could tell, Japan doesn't actually have an emancipation process, and it all varies state by state in America. So I just bent it at my will the way I did canon. That's funny. Oh my god, I didn't know that Japan didn't have emancipation. I know here it's like varies for state to state as well. I know emancipation is something that's like state for state, stuff for stuff. Sometimes you could be emancipated, sometimes you can't be emancipated. I think there's one state that emancipation doesn't really like, there's no such thing as emancipation, and then there is the difference between legal emancipation and medical emancipation. And sometimes some states only have the medical emancipation instead of the guardian emancipation. And it's complicated. Again, it's state per state. A lot of laws are like that, state per state, where some laws really heavily vary depending on which state you are. Which is why if you're looking for a lawyer, it's best to look for a lawyer that is in your state. And even better if it's in your region in the state. Obviously all laws apply in the state, but it's better the local they are to you. Because they might understand you a bit more and stuff like that. But it's best that they're in your state. If they're not in your state, it'll be hard. Because again, some things vary. If it's a felony, I think felonies, they do not vary state per state. Any lawyer can pick that one up because it's a felony. It's federal. It is all wide, not just state per state. But I'm really excited for that one. I don't know about you guys, I'm excited, and I hope you guys have happy holidays. Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, whether you celebrate Christmas, well, today, or whether you celebrate winter solstice. I don't know any other holidays. Those are the three I know. Any other holiday out there that I do not am not aware of. I hope you have fun. You celebrate with those whom you love and whom matter to you the most. And I wish you the happiest of days. And also, I wish you, happy New Year's, but I'll wish you Happy New Year's when it comes. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.